Hi guys, and welcome back to day 3 of Inktober 2017. So today's piece, I wanted to simplify the concepts that I was putting down so that I would be able to execute it a little bit faster than the last two that I did, simply so that I can balance out my time and make sure that I get everything that I'm creating as high a quality as I want to, and that they match in quality at the end of Inktober, but I still want to be able to have time to fit in the other things that I need to get done. So that was basically my goal for today, was to try to create a piece that would take a little bit less time. And this is the concept that I ended up with. So I ended up with a snake and a hand that had been bitten. And it took a lot longer to design out the shape that the snake was going to have than I thought it would. So it ended up taking a lot more time to do than I originally allotted, but that actually seems to be the case for most of my Inktober's. Last year I spent way more time on each one than I always thought I would, but I am 100% okay with that because I want them to be pieces that I am happy with, and especially since they're going to all be bound into a book together, I don't want any weak links. I know for a fact if there's any that I feel like I've definitely failed on or missed the mark on as far as quality, I will definitely redo it, because that is a huge priority for me for this Inktober, is quality above all else. I want everything to feel like they fit together and that they have that very cohesive look that I'm going for. And I have had a few questions asking what sizes of microns I use and just a little bit more about how I handle them. And by the way, I love getting questions from you guys. So if you have something that you'd like me to talk about, put those down in your comments. I really like having concepts to talk about and knowing what you are interested in, because I like talking about art, but it's always hard to know what is interesting to you guys. But anyways, for Inktober, I have finally gone out and gotten myself a couple larger size microns. So for a long time now, I've been using just the size 01, and it's great for really small detail and for building up slowly, but it also means that it takes a lot longer and it can be a little bit more tedious than I think I would like it to actually be. So I went out and I got myself a 08 and a 05 as well. And I'm actually really enjoying the process of using thicker ones. Again, I used to use them a lot more, but I am careful to think through exactly where I want things to be thicker before I go to a thicker pen. And if I'm a little bit more unsure of exactly how I'm going to ink it, I will use a smaller one. That way I can build it up and smooth out bumps. So like there are a few areas on this snake where I overlap the hand, and I wanted to make sure that I got the curve completely correct. So I didn't want to go in with a very thick one. So I went in with my smaller one so I could build it up and create the exact shape that I wanted without it needing to be correct the first shot, which really is nice to have a little bit of a safety net there where you can build it until it is what you need it to be. So it really comes down to just how confident I am in the line, as well as how confident I am in how thick I want the line work. So for most of my line work, I want the lower edge of all the shapes to usually be a little bit thicker, just so it has a little bit more of a shadow almost, or a fake shadow really. And it gives a little bit heaviness to the bottom of it, where the top, I usually do it just a little bit thinner of a line work. So for a lot of these shapes, I went in with my 05, like for the hand, I use 05 all along the bottom border. And then in areas that overlapped as well, that I knew there would be a little bit more of a shadow in a crevice of the hand. And then on the top, I built it up more with the 01. That way I could control it, but keep it still thinner than the thicker areas of the hand. And I also found it really helpful to use the thicker one for these really long, smooth, graceful lines that I needed to get for that snake, where I needed it just to be sharp and clean. I knew that it would take a lot longer to go in there and build it up to that thickness with a 01, so I decided to go for it with the 08, and it worked pretty well. You'll notice that I actually rest my hand on, it's a piece of vellum, I believe, and it's super nice because one side is extremely smooth. It just glides right on top of the paper. And I do highly suggest having something to press your hand against when you're drawing. That way you don't get your hand grease on your beautiful new piece. And this one is, again, very nice because it glides really well on top of it. So when I'm doing these really smooth, graceful lines, my hand just glides on top of the paper and I'm able to get these really nice arcing line works. But I actually got a pack of these for very, very cheap. I got mine from Clear Bags, I believe, clearbags.com. Yeah, I think I'll go find them and see if I can find where I actually got them and link them in the description as well, because these have been a huge help when it came to actually inking these things. I am super reliant on them now. I absolutely love just having these really small little sizes that I can pull out, and if they get messed up, they just go right in the trash and then I pull out a new one. But yeah, I actually really suggest it. It's surprising what like little side tools end up being super helpful for me, like that, or like when I'm using ink washes or watercolors, having that embossing gun to dry it out. It's this side tool, but it's so incredibly helpful for the process. But again, this vellum paper has been a life changer as far as making sure that my paper is protected, as well as it being really smooth and easy to do my line work with it. I also really like that it's kind of semi-transparent, so I can still see the line work that I'm drawing that's around it, so I don't cut off parts of the piece and then get it separated. And I think my big takeaway from this piece, like always, I like to take a moment to look back at the piece and remember the things that I wish I'd done better so that I can do better in the future. I'm always paying attention to those things, and there's always a little checklist in my mind of what I could have done better, what things I just want to pay attention to in the future. But one of the biggest things for this one, once I'm done and I'm looking at it, is that I wish that I had pushed the contrast between the snake and the background. I wish that I had made the snake darker. So I was a little bit timid with making him too dark because I wanted to preserve some of those variations in value where it was a little bit lighter on the snake. But I think overall it would have really served this piece well to be able to have more strength in the contrast to really make him pop from the background and make the hand pop from the snake. So I think that's just a good thing to remember in the future, is that I need to make sure that I take a moment and analyze the values, make sure that it's reading the way I want to, and it has that power and strength behind where I want it to be. And towards the end, you might notice where I dabbed a little bit of ink wash on the outside of the border. That's because up in the upper right hand corner, you may have noticed, or left hand corner that is, I had rested my hand on accident in an ink wash and marked the paper a little bit. And the easiest way to make a mistake disappear is to make it look intentional. So I just went in and added a few little spots around it so that it made it look a little bit more aged and intentional. And that is my favorite way to fix mistakes like that, or especially blotchiness where the ink wash starts to separate in a way that I didn't necessarily intend. Is I just go in it and I add more of that, and then it just looks really beautiful, like it was meant to be that way. And that is it for today's Inktober. As a reminder, I do post daily Inktober videos, so stay tuned tomorrow for another one. And as always, I do have this original available at my shop, and this one will be a little bit cheaper because it is a little bit more simple. So if you wanted to get a hold of some of my original work, I do have that listed, and there is a link in the description as well as in the end card. And I do want to give a huge thank you to anyone who does support me through my shop. It really does mean a lot to me, and it really does help me to be able to put videos out like this for you guys. So thank you again. And I will see you guys tomorrow for the next Inktober.